What if I were to tell you that everything you think you know about politics, both domestic and geopolitics, was a lie? What if I were to tell you that the mainstream media has become so corrupt, so infiltrated by the influence of the Central Intelligence Agency, that they no longer merely distort the facts to present a pro-establishment spin, but that they now out and out lie to you, presenting you with an image of the world so distorted that it has become the polar opposite of the truth? What if I were to tell you that the only way to break free of this illusion was to make a leap of faith, to trust people that you have been indoctrinated to believe are your enemies? Would you have the courage to open your eyes? Okay, so I've got a little channel recommendation video for you guys today, but in typical Fakesagan style, I'm not just going to merely get to the point. I'm going to give you about 15 or 20 minutes of rambling preamble, because I love the sound of my own voice. And so do you. Don't deny it. So, I was looking at the comments section on my latest Let the Record Indicate, and it made me realize that I've sort of been taking my own knowledge for granted, kind of assuming that other Americans know the things I know. And they don't. I think I underestimated how brainwashed people really are. And I didn't fully appreciate what a privileged view of the world I have. And that sounds incredibly arrogant, yet it's the truth. Let's look at this comment right here from Aries106. He says, "Please excuse the Godwins, but as I'm sure you know, Hitler made the trains run on time." Now, who is Aries106 comparing to Adolf Hitler? Donald Trump, of course. And by the way, Aries106, this quote that you're citing here, the fascists make the trains run on time, that was, in its original context, a reference to Benito Mussolini and the Italian Fascist Party. It never even had anything to do with Hitler's Germany. What? I can't chalk this up to anything else besides propaganda, besides media brainwashing. That people are still making comparisons of Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. What is it about Trump that's so racist? Can somebody please tell me that? But besides the fact that the media spent months and months telling you that he's racist. Has Trump ever referred to African American youths as super predators the way Hillary Clinton did? Did Trump ever remark that Muslims and people of color are perennial ne'er-do-wells, bound to fail in whatever country they emigrate to, the way Hillary Clinton did? Because I'm stretching back my memory and I can't remember a single racist remark that Trump ever made, and yet these Hitler comparisons persist. This is brainwashing, plain and simple. You people have been brainwashed. There's really only one justification I can imagine that would possibly make people believe this shit. And that's a guilt by association rationale, predicated on the fact that Donald Trump is buddies with Vladimir Putin, which he is. I don't deny that. Nobody denies that. In fact, that's the reason why I voted for Trump. Because Putin is fucking awesome. But in the mind of the average American, Vladimir Putin is a homophobic, racist, autocrat, a mini Hitler. So if Trump is buddy-buddy with him, then therefore Trump must be a mini Hitler as well. Well, what if I were to tell you that everything you've been told about Vladimir Putin is a lie? Because it really is. It really is, guys. We heard this rhetoric about Russian aggression for so long. Where is the aggression? Okay, what justifies that accusation? All right. Is it the no-fly zone that Putin imposed over Syria? A sovereign state with a democratically elected government that the United States illegally attempted to overthrow. Was that the Russian aggression? Was it the fact that Russia annexed Crimea after a open, transparent, and democratic referendum? And by the way, what a bloodless annexation. Do you remember the block by block fighting that occurred in Crimea when the Russians came marching in? No, I don't remember that either. You know why? Because it didn't happen. Crimea's population are culturally Russian. They speak Russian. They identify with Russian culture. So if Russia had not annexed Crimea, there would have been horrendous human rights abuses going on under the Kiev regime. The regime which, by the way, was put in place by the CIA and the United States State Department, who armed and funded radical right-wingers, real deal Nazis, right? But we were presented with a different spin in the media. As I've remarked before, but in case anybody forgot, because it was my last channel which no longer exists, the word Ukraina itself means at the border, at the cut. And Ukraine is the birthplace of Russian culture. It's the cradle of the Kievan Rus, which became Russians. So, if I were to attempt to draw a comparison to make Americans understand, there really isn't one, because there's no direct analogy for us. It wouldn't be accurate, for example, to say that Ukraine is like our Canada. It's not. The only way I could make a comparison that would make sense was if England actually had a border adjoining the continental United States. Because England is our parent country, it's where we derive our cultural identity from, but we're separated by an ocean, right? So it's not an apt comparison. There is no direct analogy to make Americans understand how ripping Kiev away from Russia was an attack at the heart of the Russian people. And frankly, I'm still amazed that Putin didn't simply launch the nukes. A man so nationalistic, or should I say, a man so patriotic, that he single-handedly defended the Russian embassy in Berlin against an angry mob of Germans armed only with a pistol. And yet, when an obvious CIA-staged coup d'etat took place right on his border, he turned the other cheek. Kiev, by the way, is home to some of the most ancient Eastern Orthodox monasteries and churches. This was a tremendous blow to the morale of the Russian people for the United States to see the color revolution there, which is what we did. And yet, by defending the interest of culturally Russian citizens in Crimea, by defending Russia's warm water ports there, allowing them to preserve the ability to field their submarine fleet, which is a necessary matter of national defense for the Russian Federation. Right, so this was a move they had to make. It was a forced move. They didn't have a choice. Yet this translates in the mind of the average American to Russian aggression, right? Russian aggression. Yeah. It just amazes me, the disconnect with reality. Let me show you another little comment here. This one is on my video, Trump is President, Katie Rich is a cowardly, unfunny bully, and it comes from Rob Kazant, and he says, "What do you think about the anarchists who used black bloc tactics in Washington on Trump's inauguration day?" Now, of course, he's asking me that question because I identify as an anarchist, and I've expressed admiration for the black bloc. And here's what I said. I said, okay, if anybody is thinking I resent those Trump protesters, you're wrong. I support any and all forms of civic activism. However, I think those protesters are misguided, and I know exactly who misguided them: the MSM. It's a simple case of misdirected rage. Anti-globalist protesters against an anti-globalist president. It's tragic, really. But when Trump doesn't turn out to be the new Hitler the MSM promised everyone he would be, the people will come to their senses, and trust in the MSM will plunge even lower than it already is. The 6% of Americans who still trust the news will lose their trust. Tell us how you really feel, Fakesagan. That's how I really feel. These people are just liars at this point. They're not even distorting. They're not even spinning. They're just fucking lying to you. And this, I mean, it's the only possible justification I can imagine for people hanging on to this impression that Trump is going to be the next Hitler, is the fact that, yeah, we all know he's close to the Kremlin. We all know he has a good relationship with Vladimir Putin. So since Vladimir Putin is so evil, therefore Trump must be evil. QED. Well, Putin isn't evil. See, the outgoing presidential administration and their lackey media told us ad nauseum, over and over again, how aggressive Russia is. And it's easy to believe that if you never seek out primary sources. That is to say, if you don't actually listen to what Vladimir Putin is saying, what Dmitry Rogozin is saying, what Sergei Lavrov is saying, then, you know, the mainstream media says, oh, Putin's being aggressive. And you really have no choice but to take them at their word, do you? Oh, shit, I just heard Putin was being aggressive. Damn that Putin, right? Well, here's a video which I think very accurately demonstrates the disconnect between the media's narrative and reality. Let's take a listen.
I think it's fair to say that after President Putin came back into the presidency, that an escalating anti-American rhetoric, that return to an adversarial spirit that I think existed during the Cold War has made the relationship more difficult.
We associate your name with our hope for a breakthrough in relations between our countries.
He has been improvising himself into a nationalist approach to Russian policy that is scaring the heck out of his neighbors and is badly damaging his economy.
We don't want to deteriorate relations between our countries. That's the route our American partners have taken.
We're upholding the principle that bigger nations can't bully the small by opposing Russian aggression.
Even by Russia's standards, tonight's stunt, a stunt replete with moralism and grandstanding, is uniquely cynical and hypocritical.
Russia will continue to send troops home in body bags.
I listened to my colleague from Russia, and I sort of felt a little bit like we're sort of in a parallel universe here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the US is a superpower and a great country.
The Russians can't change us or significantly weaken us. They are a smaller country. They are a weaker country. I think it's fair to say that after President Putin came back into the
Okay, so there we go. Now, how would you know if you're being lied to without seeking out primary sources? So I want to point you guys to a channel that I've been using. It's a fantastic resource. No, not RT. That's already on my featured channels list here. But this one is not, Inessa S. So the first question you're going to ask is, why don't you just put it on there? Well, I can't. See if I do. Edit module here. Inessa S. Add. Oop. Cannot find a channel with that username or URL. Well, Inessa still has, you know, despite having been on YouTube for a long time and having 48,000 subs, she still has one of these URLs that's like a big meaningless string of letters and numbers, which makes it very difficult for other channels to promote her content, for people to find her channel. You know, I've sent her PMs about this, but I'm sure she gets hundreds of thousands of PMs. But this channel is a tremendous resource. It's really great, and the reason why is that all she does is translate the Russian media for an American audience, which isn't the same as watching RT America, which is content made for an American audience. You're actually getting the primary sources here. You're getting Russian TV, Russian politicians, but translated into English. So people like Vladimir Putin, Sergei Lavrov, Dmitry Rogozin, and also non-government actors who are influential in the Russian political sphere, such as Alexander Dugin here. And, you know, the first question that my audience might have is, how do you know these translations are accurate? How do you know that Inessa is not, you know, softening the message, making Putin's speeches more Western friendly? Well, the reason I know is that the Fakesagan, in fact, does speak a little bit of Russian. I'm nowhere near fluent. I've only been studying for 2 years. It's probably going to take me about a decade to attain anything close to fluency. It's a level 5 language. It's very difficult. But I speak enough to be able to tell if a translation that I'm reading is close to accurate or if it's complete bullshit. And I can tell you, take my word, that Inessa's translations are accurate. And if my own audience doesn't trust me, then all I can say is buy Rosetta Stone and find out for yourself. But allow me to play a little clip of one of Inessa's videos, a rare video in which she actually vlogs. And by the way, for the heterosexual males and homosexual females in my audience, another great reason to subscribe is she's gorgeous. But let's hear from Inessa why she does what she does.
I don't work for anyone. A lot of people show up on my channel saying, who do you work for, who pays you? Well, nobody pays me. I know 2 languages, and I can see that what's being told in the media in Western countries is not true. It's really, really not true. So it's not, like, if you speak Russian as well, it's not you that's crazy. It's just a tight little circle of people that make stuff up and put it out to the rest of the world to see.
And there you have it. And she is not kidding. You're being lied to. So subscribe to Inessa S. I think this is one of these obligatory subscriptions. This is one of these channels that's so important. It really belongs on every subscription list. But go ahead and start watching her stuff, and you will be shocked by the contrast between what you're being told on the mainstream media and reality. And the truth will blow your mind. You will not believe how full of shit CNN really is. So that's all the news that's fit to print. Keep it fake.